Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here, and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today I'm taking a look at this, the Italeri Panther A in 1/72 scale. So join me as I take a look inside the box and see what this one is like. So I actually decided I'd pick this one up to have a go at some new paints that I've been sent out. I was looking for something fairly simple and easy to build, and I saw this in the shop and I thought, oh, that will do absolutely perfectly. If I'm being honest, it does catch my eye, the box artwork that we have here, and it looks fairly modern. But you know how things are sometimes. A modern kit isn't always a modern kit inside the box. But nonetheless, we will carry on. We've got some information over here. It says there's new decals for 5 versions. There are length and length tracks, and there's a figure. So straight off the bat, I thought this was going to be quite good value. We can see we've got a price up here, which is the price that I paid for this. Over here on the left-hand side, it says that this is War Games approved, whatever I suppose that means. And there is an item code of 7018. On the back, we have some information about what paint schemes are actually included inside the box, which is actually really nice to see. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different paint schemes, and the paint color callouts are down here. You can also see we've got a sort of print of the decal sheet, which is included. Over on the right hand side, we've got some information about Italeri and the contents of the box. We have a copyright date down here of 2024, but again, copyright dates aren't always tooling dates, so we need to take that with a pinch of salt. On the long thin edge, we've got some information in multiple languages, but primarily this is just information about the prototype vehicle which the model is based on. And then on the other long edge, we have a dimension here which says that in length this is 12.3 centimeters, but the other information is the same that we've already seen. On the thin edges, it's the same information that we have already seen previously. So without any further ado, let's get into the box and see what we have. So as usual, I'm going to start with the instructions. So the instructions are here. You can see we have some element of color on there, and as is a quite typical sort of layout, we've got some information in different languages about the actual Panther, and then as we come down, we've got some sort of health and safety warning information. As we flip over the page, you can see it just keeps extending. Top left, we've got a sprue map, which is very helpful because it helps identify where things may be on the sprue and also things that are not necessarily needed or required for the build that you're working on. So we then progress onto the build. You can see that everything is in black and white, despite the fact they have the ability to print in color. And as we go through, you can see that they've annotated with the letters the different colors for whatever is being painted at the time. And here we start assembling our running wheels and the link and length tracks. So there's quite a few bits and pieces there. So we do one side and then we do the other side. And then we get to step 3. And no doubt I've already had a look at this, so I know kind of what to expect. So we get to step 3 and there are templates here. We have some sketches which are true to size of parts which you have to scratch build. These parts are not included in the kit. It's a little bit frustrating that they're not included in the kit, but they are effectively hull closing plates which go over the top of the hull area here to prevent a gap being present between the tracks and the top of the hull, or the bottom of the hull, should I say. A little bit annoying that we have to scratch build those, but I guess you could do so out of card or plastic card or something if you really wanted to. As we progress onwards, we get to step 4. We are going to add elements of our hull to our vehicle, and you can see they've drawn in those hull blanking plates or closing plates, and then we're met with some more side skirts that we need to scratch build. Again, these are not included in the kit. Why? So you look on the box, you can see that obviously side skirts are here. We flip over, you can see that on here, that one uses them, that one uses them, that one uses most of them apart from the front one, that one uses the front one but none of the others, but it still has like mounts for them, and then this one uses the back one. I just find it a bit bizarre that you're expecting us to make them. Why wouldn't you have designed an extra sprue if it was an add-on and added them in, or even just a little photo etch sheet? But yeah, not a fan of the fact that this kit has scratch building required in order to replicate the actual version on the boxing. I feel like that's a little bit misleading to say, hey, this is what you can build out of this kit, but actually no, you can't, because you have to scratch build. Yeah, part of me thinks, you know, it could be something that could be designed and 3D printed. I know our friend James from LPGA Models, he's kindly offered to have a go at designing these parts for me. So we'll see what happens there. But there is part of me that thinks, you know, maybe if you got to this point and you didn't want to scratch build it because it seems like a right faff, then you could just skip past that and just build it without them. Then we get on to something about the Zimmerit, and this, I think in this scale, is going to look somewhat difficult to do, especially as you're engraving lines 2mm high. I mean, this could have been designed into the tooling as a sort of a plastic representation as the molding. I know that they have given you an idea of what to do with it if you wanted to do it, but it just seems like an awful lot of work. Again, I probably won't do that. I probably just won't bother. And then we come on to step 6, where we add some details to the side of our hull. And then at 6, so we need to find step 7. Where are you? 3, 4, 5, 6. Step 6 goes straight to step 9. I'm not missing anything, am I? Because that's literally, that's done. And then we flip over and then we build our hull, and then we add we do the turret, and then we add the turret to the hull. Yeah, so 5, 6, 9. A bit of attention to detail. Maybe it's like 7, 8, 9, but yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it? They've not numbered this quite right. We do have some information on the decals, but then we also have our painting instructions, again, in full colour. The full colour part here is really good. So we've got the first version, which is used in Romania in April 1944. A very interesting looking paint scheme on that. The next one is a Normandy version in 1944. We've got a Belarus version 1944, a Northern Germany 1945, and Vistula front sector in autumn 1944. Not sure what that is. Personally, I would probably just go for like one of these because they've got the full side skirts, if we can get that sort of sorted out rather than having to cut bits off. But as I mentioned, I wanted to try out some paints, and I would need to do some sort of blotches. So, you know, any of these paint schemes would be fine for that. So paint schemes, good to see. Instructions are misnumbered. And also we've got to scratch build stuff, which you're just not told about on the box, which is frustrating. Transfers then. So these are, if we can get in a bit closer, you can see down the bottom, it says screen printed by Cartograph, made in Italy. I don't remember seeing the Cartograph logo on the box, but it is nice that they're made by Cartograph. Cartograph are some of the best transfer or decal manufacturers in the world, and I never really have any problems with applying them to the model. These look absolutely fantastic. The film is very thin. The printing is very good. I mean, there's not a great deal here, but it's pretty nice to see. All that remains to be seen is how well they go onto the model. And then we're met with our bag of bits. So we need to get that open. There we go. So we have 1, 2 sort of sand color sprues, and then we have a third which is molded in grey. And straight off the bat, the molding doesn't look too bad. There is almost a bit of a texture on some of these plastic parts. It is worth noting the plastic is a little bit hard, a little bit dense, but it's not greasy. It doesn't feel as greasy as other manufacturers that I've seen. And there is a little bit of a mold seam down some parts, but the flash is quite minimal. So you'd think this is quite a recent tooling given the sort of level of quality that we've got here. So we've got a little figure here. There's a crewman. He looks quite decent, definitely usable, but a bit of a seam down the edge which needs to be trimmed. But on here we've got our hull components, turret, our wheels, our running wheels. They look pretty nice with some really quite nice sort of rivet detail in the center. On the back you can see that the ejector pins are all on this side, which is a little bit frustrating on the figure because there's one right in his back, but for the other parts, these are sort of the internal areas which we're not going to see them. We've got some spare bits of track work here, so that's not too bad looking. And then we've got our main hull. You can see we've got some sort of welding marks here, which are molded into the plastic. Details are fairly crisp. Bit of texture to the metalwork, but none of that zimmerit, as we mentioned previously. But yeah, nicely detailed. Molding pretty crisp. Here's our toe sort of ropes. They look pretty good. Our main gun comes in 2 halves, which needs to be glued together. We've got the sides of our hull here. A little bit frustrating that the ejector pins are on this side, but hopefully not too noticeable once it's built. Yeah, not a bad looking kit. You could be forgiven for thinking this is a fairly recent production, but not necessarily like a 2024 kit, but still it looks like fairly modern, doesn't it? And then we've got our length tracks. Same kind of deal. Plastic is relatively hard, not greasy though. And the molding is generally pretty nice. Not much in the way of flash, so they've looked after the toolings, not much in the way of like scratches, or there's no short shots or anything. I haven't really done much experience of link and length, so this will be interesting to have a go at. It is probably worth noting, and I'm sure someone has spotted it, that we have a logo up here, and the logo at the top is for Esky. So it's not an Italeri tooling by the looks of it. Is there an Esky one on here somewhere? I'll have a quick look just to see. I don't see one on here. No, so the only sort of telltale sign for who this actually belongs to is on this one here. But yeah, let's wrap this up. It doesn't look terrible, does it? We've got some link and length tracks, which are molded to a nice quality, and then 2 sprues containing our main parts, which again are molded to a pretty decent quality. A little bit of flash in a few little places, a bit of a mold seam in some places, and some ejector pin marks to clean up if you're that way inclined. But generally speaking, a pretty nice looking model. We have cartograph transfers, which look absolutely lovely. And then we have some instructions, which are reasonably clear to follow. We do have a bit of a misnumbered step here, which could cause confusion, but the painting instructions are all in color, which is really nice to see. All of that came contained within this rather stylish and modern looking box, which is part of the reason why I picked it up in the shop. So looking at the price then, I paid £14.99, so let's call it 15 quid. On the Italeri website, this is retailing for €16, which if we convert it to pound sterling, I actually paid slightly more than the RRP. I didn't know about it at the time, but if we convert €16 to GBP, we get about £13.30. So I paid maybe about £1.70 more than the RRP, but then again, you know, I bought this in a bricks and mortar shop, so reasonably happy to help support a local business. However, with that in mind, is it worth what I paid for this kit? And I'm not entirely sure. Granted, yes, we are getting cartograph decals, but it's not a massive sheet. And yes, we get a choice of 5 paint schemes, but as you can probably tell, the difference between each paint scheme is only a couple of decals. It's like 5 or 6 decals between them. So not a massive sheet that's not overly expensive, I'd imagine, for them to manufacture. Instruction wise, I am very frustrated by the fact that the kit on the box is not replicable out of the box. You have to do scratch building, which I find very frustrating because I don't want to say it's like false advertising, but it is a bit misleading because you're basically buying this thinking this is what I'm going to be able to build, but actually not with what's included. You are going to have to replace parts that are not present. Granted, they have done some of the legwork for you and told you what the parts are that you need to do and how big to make them. But if you were a beginner, for example, and, you know, even personally, that's probably a little bit outside of my skill range. So a bit frustrating that what you get inside the box is not what you potentially might be able to build from what's illustrated on the box. And then the plastic parts, pretty nice. They're not too bad, but with the fact that I paid £15 for this and what we're getting in the box, it's a little bit disappointing, I would say, because as we discussed, this is an Esky tooling which actually dates from 1974. And I know there's no like tooling information on here, because let's face it, why would Italeri tell us the tooling information? They kind of want people to go into the shop and buy it, don't they? And this is some of the sort of misleading elements of our hobby that I'm not a massive fan of. Just tell us the tooling date. Be a bit more transparent. So this is a 1974 tooling, which has been around. It's done, a fair share of trips through different manufacturers. I think the main difference when this was first brought out was that it had rubber band tracks, which would have gone around the wheels. Whereas now they've updated it to have link and length tracks. But I think these link and length tracks were introduced probably around the 80s. Which I think are a good improvement over the rubber band tracks, because they don't always look great. They can be difficult to join together with the flexible rubber, and they don't always hold the paint as well. So these should look better. But yeah, this is a bit like one of those circumstances where we've got an old tooling in a new box and the company is sort of shamelessly selling it to maximize profits, perhaps. Yeah, a little bit disappointed with a few elements of this kit. I hope that it builds up into a nice model, and I did buy it as a test bed for some paints, so I guess it will remain to be seen what it's actually like when it's built. But I was pretty keen to have a go at this one, and then, getting it open and realizing actually kind of what I've bought was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, I think that's probably it for this video. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this kit, and if you agree that my assessment of this model was fair. As always, quick shout out to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel. Massive thanks to these guys on screen for the extra support they give me. There are of course other ways to help support the channel, and all this information is below the video. The best way to support the channel for free though is by subscribing with notifications turned on, so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.